We have a problem with our label layout. What if we have a shipping address? Right now the label layout only uses our billing address. What if we have no shipping address? Which address should it use? Well, we need to choose the appropriate address in the right situation. So I think if we have a shipping address, we're going to go ahead and use that. If we don't have a shipping address, we'll default back to the billing address. So in order to do that, we're going to create a calculation, a label calculation, and we'll go into Manage Database. We'll type in label, choose calculation, and hit create. Now I'm choosing a calculation field because there's no reason to use an auto enter calc here. We could make it update properly, but we really don't need to modify the label. It's going to be based on all the fields we have. The first thing we do when we come in here is we know the result is text, so let's change it. And what we're going to have to do is make a decision. Is it shipping or billing that we're going to use? So what we're going to do is talk about the case, which is right here. That allows you to make a decision. And we're also going to talk about the if. So we'll go down to if here. And they can really both accomplish the same thing. So we're going to cover an example to show you how they make decisions and how they differ in how you put them together. It's not just case and if is the difference. There's a lot of other differences, and we need to explore that before we make a choice here. So I'll start off with case. Type in case, open paren, and let's pretend we have a field in our database called field. This is not an actual calculation, we're just doing an example here. So we'll call it field, and we'll say, does it equal blue? So the field has blue in it. It has colors in it. It has red and whatever colors we want to have in there. So if the field equals blue, we want this calculation to result in a value of 1. Very simple formula. Otherwise, I want you to see if the field equals red. If it does, I want you to result in 2. Otherwise, if it's not blue or red, I want you to result in nothing. So there's your whole case statement. The field equals blue. If that's true, result in 1. If it's false, check another thing. Is the field red? If that's true, get a 2. Otherwise, if it's false, use the default. You can put a default in here if you want. We could put a 3 in there, but I just want it to be blank, or we could put quote, quote, and it would be blank. But case has this default, and I want you to see the difference between if. If requires a default, and one of the things I don't like about it. So here's an if statement, exactly the same thing. And at the beginning, it's going to look a lot like the same thing. There we go. So far it looks exactly the same. Here's where it's going to change. We're going to have to type in if again. Why? Case is inherently nested. It's built to be nested. If is not a nestable function. See how we have on the example here, we have these curly brackets here? That's because you can go on and on and on with it. There's no curly brackets here because there's test, result 1, and result 2. That's it on an if statement. But we can make result 2, the false, another if statement. And that's how we nest it here. And if that's true, do a 2. Otherwise, result in nothing. We have to put that. We have no choice. And 2 close parentheses. That's because, again, we're nesting. There's actually 2 functions, one within each other. Every open parentheses has to have a close. So imagine what would happen if you're testing all 50 states. Does the field equal California? Result in this. Does the field equal Arkansas? Do this. All through all the 50 states. You'd have 50 ifs and 50 close parens. And man, trying to remember how many close parens you have in that situation, that's really complex. Case, you'd have just what you see up here, just a bunch of tests all in a row. Much easier to work with, much easier to read, much easier to write, and it actually functions faster because it's one function rather than 2 or 3 or 50 functions nested within each other. So it's a much better one to use. So what we're going to do is we're going to now, with this knowledge, always use the case statement. There's no reason to use if inside of a calculation. Absolutely none. It does nothing for you. So get used to case. It's much better for you, especially in the long nested case statements. And don't worry about scripting. Scripting doesn't have a case. The if statement inside of a script is like the case in the calculation engine. Don't worry about that. So we're going to come back in the next section and start writing our label calculation using the case statement.